All right. Good morning, everyone. Good to see all of you. It's so cool to see all the familiar faces, but then also a lot of faces haven't seen for a while, and new faces too. So it feels really great to have that energy in here. My topic today is keep the first things first. And I kind of am giving this message for myself. It's a very busy time of year for me. And yet, just this morning, since I've come to church, I've had a number of conversations. And it sounds like I'm not the only one who's busy right now. A lot of people are sending their children back to school, starting new jobs, starting new responsibilities, getting back into the swing of school things. And if that's not you, that's fine. You might have children or grandchildren, but I think that no matter what your circumstances, this is a good message to keep the first things first. I find myself in this situation fairly often where I feel like how on earth can I possibly do everything that I have to do? I often feel like I don't even have the time to do the things that I need to do right now. How can I even consider adding something else in, or working on relationships, or spending time in prayer or reading when I've got this all in front of me, and I don't even have time for that. Anybody else relate to that? Okay, good. All right. So it often feels like I don't really have time for these other activities or relationships that might not seem as crucial, right? This past week was our first week at Heartland. We started school last week. It was a really awesome week, but up until the week started, I told Mike multiple times, I was like, I think I just must be a crazy person. Who in their right mind does all this? And I had on my list, I have my notes, to keep track of things, and I had 4 different to-do lists. One to-do list of things I had for the back-to-school night, another to-do list for the things for the first week of school, another things to do, make sure I take care of safety and policy and procedure, and another to-do list of all the things that everybody else wants me to do for school. And it was, and anytime somebody told me something new, I was like, I have to write this down because there's no more space in my brain. I will either immediately forget it, or that will push something else out of my brain and I'll forget it. There is just no more space. But it's like this every year, But one thing I did feel was a little different for me this year was I felt like I chose my job again. It's not like, I have to do this because I'm doing it. And I said I was going to do it, and now I don't have any choice. And if I don't do it, the world is going to fall apart. I think that's how I put a lot of things in my brain. I must. And if I don't, everything is going to disintegrate. But nobody is forcing me to run a school. Nobody is forcing me to be a pastor. There are, I have responsibilities. I have children, and I got to take care of them. But I'm choosing it. Just like I'm choosing my faith, and just like I'm choosing my family and how I invest into those things, I'm also choosing, the work that I do and the things that I spend my time on. And it doesn't mean that it can outweigh or overwhelm the other important things in my life, and the other things that I'm choosing in my life. So I think because I had that attitude this year, I told multiple people, I'm surprised with how well I'm handling all this. The to-do list is 7 miles long, and I'm just doing them. I'm not thinking about it too much. I'm just checking them off, but it's not like my brain is there. It's not like all my energy is there and all my stress is there. I'm doing those things, and I have my family, and I have my faith, and it just fits in with those things. So this reminded me of, you might have seen this Oh, let's start with this. This is a quote from the Bible, Matthew 6. So do not worry, saying, what shall we eat? Or what shall we drink? Or what shall we wear? But first seek his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. So it's, in my mind, it's introducing this matrix. Have you heard of it's called the Eisenhower matrix, I don't know why, or the urgent, important matrix. So it's like, what comes first? Just, so in this quote, seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. If you haven't seen this before, this is the urgent, important matrix, and I have found that it's helpful for me to revisit this little box a few times a year. And it's pretty simple. It's urgent and not urgent, and important and not important, and how these things overlap. So the urgent and important, I think, especially for people who are busy, we find ourselves spending a lot of our life in the urgent and important crises area of our life. Like, oh my gosh, this is due tonight, and I must do it. Or my child that got sick at school, and I must go pick them up. Like, it's urgent and important. I have to do it now. And then, surprisingly, we find ourselves caught up in a lot of these other non-important boxes, like interruptions. Like, oh, I'm working on this project, or I'm having dinner with my family, and then an email comes in and I need to check the notification, or a phone call happens and I feel like I should take it, even though what I'm doing is maybe more important, but the urgency of what this notification is or email is like taking me away from what's important. And then we also somehow spend a significant amount of our time in the not important and not urgent part of our life. And this could easily be classified as like scrolling on social media, or escaping, right, into whatever it is we do to escape, whether it's video games or even exercise. While a healthy distraction, we can sometimes use it to escape from what is important to us that we don't want to face. And yet, how much of our time is spent in the important, non-urgent section of goals and planning? This is, this is the same thing. It's a little bit more detailed, and I don't know if you can read it. They give some examples of what these different things are. And honestly, a lot of times this matrix is used at things like networking events and entrepreneurship fairs, and it's often kind of geared towards people who are their own business owners, and kind of running everything in their life. But I think this also applies to maybe the more internal or spiritual aspects of our life as well. So I wish I could read it. I can't. But things that fall under the not urgent, I think on this thing says like preparing and planning and strategizing. What else does it say? Personal and professional development. I think it also includes like relationships, relationship building. There we go. That's what that one says. Thank you. Self-care also, yes. So these things are important. And actually, both the do and decide are in the important line. But I think that actually the most important things usually fall under important and not urgent, because the most important things in our life are not things that get done in one day. The most important things in our life aren't like a project. The most important things in our life are things that span our entire life. This includes our relationships. It includes who we are and who we're becoming. It includes our relationship with our Creator. These are like the most important things, right? This isn't something you could just check off a box and be like, okay, I did it. I did my urgent and important box, and now I'm done with it. But we're often so overwhelmed in the urgent and important immediate things that this is at like the bottom of our to-do list, right? It's often the thing that gets set to the back burner or squeezed out by all the important and urgent things that are happening in our life right now. The more we focus, but this is what I think is cool. The more we actually focus on the most important and non-urgent things, the less we actually have to deal with the urgent things. Don't we find ourselves in crises many times because a relationship blew up in our face, or somebody's upset, or we procrastinated and now we have all these things to do, right? If we're proactively working on our relationships, if we're proactively developing ourselves and who we are and what we want to be, there's actually a lot less that becomes super urgent because we're already taking care of the most important things. If we made decisions for our life just based on how we felt in the moment, and not based on our relationship with God and the calling He has for us, then we find ourselves wondering what we are doing with our life and desperate for a change. And that's when we find ourselves also in the more urgent, important area. I feel like a lot of people find themselves in this place, what they call like a midlife crisis, right? Where you're doing things because you feel like you should be doing them. I'm a certain age, so I should have a house by now. I should be married by now. I should have kids by now. I should have moved up in the corporate ladder by now. And we kind of build our life based on what society expects of us or certain milestones that we feel like we should be doing. But at a certain point, right, whenever we do take the time to really reflect and think, which for many people comes around the time they turn 40, then they're like, wait, but what am I really doing? What's really important in my life? And what am I spending my time on? And is it feeding the things that I really want, or is it just checking off the boxes? And I'm not saying that we shouldn't do things that we should do. Right? We do need to make money. We do need to feed ourselves and our family. We do need to pay our taxes. Even Jesus told us that, right? The disciples said, like, should we be paying our taxes to Caesar? And I didn't put this one in the quote, but he said, give back to Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what is God's, right? So we exist in a physical world. We're spiritual beings in a physical body, but we still exist in a physical world. So we still need to do the things that satisfy the physical needs. But these aren't the things that we are living for, right? We don't live to pay our taxes. We don't live just to eat dinner. We don't live to pay off our mortgage. This is a quote from our founder, Reverend Moon. Once you have decided to do something, you have to have the courage to fight to accomplish your goal, no matter what kind of difficulties lie ahead. You should have the courage to digest all obstacles rather than merely to dislike them. So I thought this was a good time to revisit for each one of us. Just take a minute. Remember, what goals did you set for yourself at the beginning of the year? It's been a while, hasn't it? It's been 7 months, right? So this is a good time because there's still 5 months left to the year to work on your yearly goals. I'm sure everybody's goals looked a bit different, right? Everybody has different circumstances in their life, different family situations. But regardless of what your specific goals were for the year, I can bet that a lot of them had to do with faith and relationships. Because when we really stop and reflect, even if we know we need more money, right? Even if we want a better job, we know that those things alone won't make us happy. In many cases, we actually want those things so that we can have more time with our family, right? We can invest more into the things that are really important to us. So I'm going to encourage you to revisit your goals, and we have some great opportunities. We just showed the ad for the marriage course, right? If your goal had anything to do with your relationship with your spouse, I encourage you to sign up for the marriage course, right? It's a specific action step you can take right now that will support your eternal relationship with your spouse. And I encourage you to take time to revisit your relationship with God. Whether it's reading or spending some time in prayer or in meditation, right? Considering, who is my parent? Where did I come from? Who am I? Because that will determine how we show up in the world. In our faith, we often talk about the vertical and the horizontal, right? The vertical is me and God, my relationship with my parent. And then the horizontal is like how I show up in the world. And the two things you can't separate them. We can't only exist in the world without any consideration for who I am and where I came from. That leads people to midlife crises. And we can't only exist in our relationship with God as our heavenly parent, because that separates us from the world that God created for us. God didn't create only spiritual beings. He created us in this world so that he can live through us, right? That we can be hands and feet to each other, and that we can enjoy the beautiful creation that God made for us. So my encouragement to you is to think first, right? Keeping God first. First, how do I reconnect to my heavenly parent? What do I need to do in order to do that? And then how does that affect my relationships? How is that going to affect what I do with the life that I have? I have a couple of quotes that I feel support this. This one is again from our founder. He said, "If I spoke about my suffering in prison, people may be shocked emotionally, of course, and may make a new resolution. But that is not what I want. People must make such new determinations according to reasonable principles. You have to make a determination based on truth, rather than on hearing about a shocking situation. You should not decide according to someone else's strong demand, but by your own desire to do so. If you encounter the truth, your mind will be naturally moved. Therefore, your closest teacher is your mind, and it is more precious than your most intimate friend, your mother, or your father. You need to ask your mind. God is dwelling within your mind. You should be able to listen to the sound of your mind. You need to reach that point." And so I really love this part where he says, where'd it go? You should not decide according to someone else's strong demand. And if you encounter the truth, your mind will be naturally moved. So this is where I feel it really fits into the message of what are we doing, like what is in our urgent and important or non-urgent and important boxes. because I think this is really at the foundation of who we are and what we do. If we encounter the truth, right, if we are in resonance with God, we don't have to make like pros and cons lists to make decisions. We don't have to struggle, oh, what should I do with my time today? Should I go to this meeting or should I spend time with my family? Or should I, make this for dinner or for this dinner? Those are simple things. But the thing is, if we are in resonance with God and we encounter the truth, our mind comes into resonance with that. It becomes attuned to that, and it can naturally guide our decisions. But the thing is, if we aren't putting ourselves in situations where we are encountering the truth, then we become fuzzy. Then we get caught up in the minute decisions of, oh, what should I do? Then we spend a lot of time stressing. How many of us are spending a lot of time stressing? Right? If we are not encountering the truth, if we're not attuning our mind to God, I feel like that's when we really get lost in the chaos in our minds. So this is my encouragement, to put that time to spend with God, whether it's reading, meditating, praying, into that part of your matrix, the really important part. Because that will help guide how we show up in the world. That will help guide the decisions that we make and help us avoid some of the crises that we find ourselves in. This is a similar one. You should begin each day saying, thank you, thank you. With this kind of heart, there will be progress. Doing things centered on yourself is counter to heavenly law. You need to align yourself with the heavenly parent and true parents, moving in oneness of mind and oneness of body with them. So again, this is about, right, bringing ourselves into resonance or alignment with God. And then there will be progress. This is a short message, and I don't think it's anything that any of you have not heard before. But just as it's helpful for me to, even if I don't draw out the box, sometimes when I'm overwhelmed, I'm like, all right, what's my matrix here? What am I spending my time on? Is it really important? And if it is important, is it the most important? Or is it things that I can let go of? Or is it things I can have somebody else do? Or is it something I can replace with something that's more healthy? And it's just a reminder to revisit, right? What did we set our minds to at the beginning of this year? More than getting my kids to school on time, more than getting my project done at work. Like, who am I, and what are the most important things to me? And how can I, if I'm not doing any of that right now, how can I do some of that, right? And if I'm doing some of it, how can I bring myself even more in alignment with that? Because that will bring me even more joy. It will help me resonate and discover, well, not discover, it will help me to realize my purpose and take us out of the crises mode that many of us seem to be experiencing this week. So please join me in prayer. Thank you, Heavenly Parent, for this morning and all these lovely people gathered here today. We're here as your children, and we're all walking this path of life, and each one of our paths is different, and we have different circumstances, and we have different people in our life. But I know that at the heart, each one of us desires a relationship with our Creator, and we desire to be in healthy relationships with each other. And all the rest of the things are just parts that fill in the gaps. They just support who we really want to be. And I pray that we can take this time this week to realign with who we really are and what we really, really want, and keep the first things first. We offer this time to you in this message, and we begin this week with you. And I pray this in my name, Michael and Adonia Hendrick, with Blessed Central Family. Amen and adieu. Thank you.